Let's face it, you're always apologizing for existing, saying yes when you really mean no, and taking into consideration everyone else's feelings and sacrificing your own. You're terrified of hurting people's feelings, and the thought of someone being mad at you makes you tremble. I get it. People pleasing runs deep. Most of my existence up until I was around 27 was around people pleasing. I lived in a way that was so passive that I could not answer the question of who I was and what I wanted because I was so concerned with how everyone else felt and how everyone else thought of me. But here's the good news. As much as you think that being a people pleaser is a permanent personality trait of yours, I'm here to tell you that it's not. Up until I was age 27, I was a people pleaser. I literally could not answer the question of who I was because I was so concerned with what everyone else thought and how everyone else wanted me to be. So when I asked myself who I was, the answers were cloudy. I truly believe that undoing your people-pleasing tendencies starts with understanding why you do it in the first place. And once you can understand that and bring awareness to it, then you can undo your people-pleasing tendencies. And this video is gonna show you how to do that. Let's first start with what is a people pleaser. And if you're here, you probably know all too well what that is. People pleasers put everybody's needs above their own to be liked, to avoid conflict, and to keep the peace. They struggle to say no, especially with people who are important in their lives because they don't want to let them down. They fear being judged or criticized, so they avoid speaking their opinion and simply go with the flow to make everyone else comfortable. And people pleasers are often seen as the nice ones. And somewhere along the way, that just becomes their entire personality. But let me be clear. Being nice and being a people pleaser are two totally different animals. One is at the expense of yourself. True kindness does not come at the expense of yourself. And in reality, living this way is not just exhausting, but truly unsustainable. I mean, you know. But let's get into it. You didn't just become a people pleaser by accident. Why do people even become people pleasers in the first place? Most people pleasers learned early on that their emotions weren't safe. Maybe you had a parent that was explosive anytime something went wrong. And in order to keep the peace and to keep the love, you had to learn how to manage their emotions. So that's what you did. You learned probably how to predict their needs, how to make sure that they didn't get upset. And in all of this, you learned that doing anything to upset another person was bad. So you stopped doing things to upset other people, which caused you to suppress basically all of your feelings. Or maybe you had a parent that leaned on you a little too much for emotional support. Maybe your mom was always overwhelmed and it was your job to fix things, to make sure she felt better, to keep her emotions in check so that you could get the love that you wanted. And over time, that became your identity. And it felt good. It was rewarding. If you could manage your mom's emotions and get the love you desired, well, then you were doing exactly what you thought you should be doing. Fast forward to adulthood, and you're still prioritizing everyone's feelings above your own, still trying to earn love and approval, just like you did back then. It's not a coincidence. And quite frankly, this isn't just a habit that you've picked up. When people say stop people pleasing, it's not that easy. It's a subconscious programming that your brain has learned to keep you safe. So the only way to undo it is to go back and see where it comes from and then take the steps. So how do you stop people pleasing? The magic question. Here are 5 ways to identify your people pleasing tendencies and then move past them. Coming in hot at number 1, you over apologize and you over deliver. You say sorry for things that don't require an apology and you go above and beyond to make sure people are happy with you. Try this. Next time you feel the need to over apologize or over deliver, ask yourself, am I doing this because it feels good? Or am I doing this because I'm afraid of what happens if I don't? Am I actually sorry or am I afraid of upsetting someone? Number 2, you justify everyone else's behaviors, but don't take accountability for your own. Your boss disrespects you, you make excuses for them. Your friend disses you in front of all of your other friends, and you say they didn't mean it. Ask yourself, why am I prioritizing their feelings over my own? What would happen if I stood up for myself? What would the consequences be? Number 3, and I know you know this one well, you say yes when you really mean no. You overcommit and overpromise at the expense of what you really want. You agree to things you don't want to do to avoid conflict and disappointment. A great practice for this one is next time someone asks you for something, pause, take a breath, and then ask yourself, do I really want to do this thing? Will it add to my life? Or am I afraid to say no because I'm so afraid to disappoint that person and what they might think of me? Number 4, you seek validation from others. Oh gosh, this one is my biggest offender. You make decisions solely on what will make other people happy. You need other people to validate the things you're doing, to feel valuable, to feel worthy. The external approval that you're seeking is filling a void that you can't fill within you. If this is you, ask yourself, whose opinions am I prioritizing? And what would happen if I did something simply because I wanted to do it, even if other people didn't agree? And last but certainly not least, number 5, you avoid conflict like the plague. You would so much rather keep the peace than start any form of conflict by expressing your real feelings. Next time you feel a conflict brewing, take a pause and ask yourself, what part of the conflict am I really the most afraid of? And why do I feel like running from it is going to solve my problems? And now that we've uncovered the why behind your people-pleasing tendencies, I'm going to give you 6 steps to start implementing today. And we're actually going to change locations for that. And we're back. And if I'm being honest, I like this spot anyways. The first step to breaking free from your people-pleasing habits is, number 1, comes with awareness, identifying your triggers. What's causing you to people-please? When you can understand what's actually setting you off, bring awareness to it, only then can you create habits to move past it. I would suggest keeping a journal. Write down all of the things that trigger you and keep adding to that list every single day, not as a way to feel like you have so many triggers and you're never going to get over it, but to see the patterns and to see the themes of what's actually keeping you stuck. Plus, when you know what triggers you, well, it becomes way less scary to deal with it. And number 2 is simple, and you can start implementing it right now. Start small. Say no to something that's negligible. If your coworkers ask you to go to lunch today and you brought lunch, don't say yes just to please them and then let your food sit. Eat the food that you brought. It's okay to say no. Pick something small that's not going to have very many consequences and start to build this trust muscle with yourself. The more you can say no to little things, eventually they'll add up to bigger things. Number 3, reframe your mindset. Having needs does not make you selfish. It makes you human. One thing that really helped me when I was undoing my people-pleasing habits was to see that people-pleasing was actually a disservice to the people around me. If I was doing something that I didn't want to do, then the people around me weren't actually getting the most authentic version of me, thus they were missing out too. So when I started to see that my people-pleasing was actually standing in the way of what I actually wanted to be doing, which was give myself to others, it sort of fell flat on its face. It didn't make sense anymore. It wasn't working the way I thought it would. So it started to build this muscle in my brain that was like, oh, my people pleasing is actually dulling the experience all around. And that feels worse than the people pleasing does. So I'm not going to do that anymore. And it really helped. This one by far is the most important tool you will ever create for yourself. Emotional resilience. Having emotional resilience means that you have the ability to tolerate emotions as they're coming up. You have the awareness of the emotions and you have the resources to handle them as they're coming through. When you have emotional resilience, it means that you're not afraid of your emotions anymore. You stop running from them. You know that you can handle it. So building emotional resilience really starts with bringing awareness to your emotions. If you are feeling like you want to say yes to something when you really mean no, and all of these emotions are coming up, be with the emotions. The only way to get out of people pleasing is to start to build the muscle around tolerating what's uncomfortable. And when you do this well, when you build emotional resilience, when you really learn to be with yourself, life gets better. You see that life exists on the spectrum of emotions, and at any given time, you might be at any given place on the spectrum. And having more toleration for the difficult emotions also means you have a higher tolerance for the good emotions too, or good, how we deem them good in our society. Number 5, and I know you don't want to hear this one, but it's setting boundaries. And I put this at number 5 for a reason. I do not think that this is the first step that you should take when you're trying to uncover and untangle your people-pleasing tendencies. This one's hard. Setting boundaries is challenging for someone who wants to please others. You're basically saying, I do not want you to do this thing with me anymore, and being okay with it. And if you're a people pleaser, you know that that is not natural for you. This kind of comes back to number 4 again. It's all about reframing your mindset. Looking at boundaries as a way of protecting your peace so that you can give more of yourself authentically. And for a people pleaser, and I know this is true for me, a lot of what it comes from is just wanting to give because I love making people happy, but I can't give from an empty cup. Setting boundaries really allows you to give from a full cup, and I truly believe that. So as you're moving past your people-pleasing habits, start small, set small boundaries, and then start to build this muscle over time. And number 6, which could also be number 1, is to seek support. A therapist or a coach or someone who can hold space for you safely so that you can go there, so you can be with the emotion, so that you can uncover the patterns without judgment and with curiosity. And let me tell you a story really quickly. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I was a people pleaser up until I was 27. There were 2 things that really helped me undo my people-pleasing patterns. 1, I got a coach. And number 2, I started microdosing. And all of this started happening intuitively in my life because my emotions were so big, I did not know what to do with them. I couldn't face them. If someone would have told me to build emotional resilience, I would have laughed at them. But what microdosing did for me was it allowed me to sit in those emotions with a completely different perspective. Suddenly I felt open to what was there and curiosity to how I could change it. While I was going through this microdosing protocol, my brain was ready for new connections. It wanted to change. So I was pairing all of these things together as a way of moving beyond the life that I had written for myself. I was writing new neural pathways. I was writing a new story for myself. And all of this happened in the support with my coach. And I can say without a doubt that those 2 things combined fast-tracked my way out of people-pleasing. If you want guidance on microdosing, on how to actually use it for transformation and change, I'll drop the link to my free workbook below. And additionally, I write a bi-weekly newsletter called The Art of Change. I'll drop a link to that below. Let's wrap this up. People-pleasing is not your fault. And I'm certainly not here to say that in one day's time, your people-pleasing habits are going to disappear. It takes time to roll into it, and it takes time to roll out of it. I had a therapist tell me that one time, and it's something that really has stuck with me. We expect ourselves to change so instantly, but change takes time. Little by little, you can step out of being a people pleaser. It's unlearnable. And just to dangle the carrot in front of you, I wish I had a carrot right now. When you learn to stop people pleasing, when you finally turn the page of that chapter, life gets so much better. You get to be fully you. People get to know the real you. You get to give more from that place. It's all the things that you're looking to fix with people pleasing, but it's actually coming from an authentic place. And it starts by simply taking steps. If this video helped you, hit the like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what's one thing you're gonna stop people pleasing this week. We'll see you on the next one.